Happy Tuesday, everybody. Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich here on this February 24th for your live weather impact. We had another cold day today. The clouds did not do us any favors blocking out that sunshine this afternoon. But boy, the sunset's getting later. I'm loving it. This is our Lylesville camera in Anson County. Just had the sunset. It was at 6:14 tonight. It's getting later and later. And believe it or not, we're less than 2 weeks away from the time change. I don't know if you guys are ready for that, but we're going to be springing forward that first full weekend in March. So that's a week from Sunday. Hard to imagine that's coming up pretty quick. And this Sunday, it's March 1st. It's almost here, guys. It's coming up quickly. You can see the beautiful views out there. High Bright Mountain looking more west. You can kind of see that twilight. Remember, you get about 30, 40 minutes of twilight this time of year after sunset. The high today, it was not warm. 42 degrees, well below our average high of 59. The record 80 today. The morning low was frigid this morning, 25, and that was one of the warm spots because we had quite a few of teens and lower 20s in other parts. But that high cirrus deck coming off the mountains, we got northwest flow, and when it came over the mountains, it produced these wave clouds, which are really mid and high level clouds, kind of blocked out the sun most of the day. So temperatures got stuck in the low 40s as opposed to closer to 50. Because if you have full sun this time of year, it's going to get a little warmer than it was today. It's cold in the northeast, all that snowpack. The cold air is still in place. We're going to be checking in Philadelphia coming up in about 8 minutes here. It's still only 41 right now with upper 30s in a few other spots, low 30s in the mountains. Overnight tonight, now the clouds, they're a curse during the day, but at night They totally help you out. They act like a blanket. They trap in a little bit of warmth we had today. So don't expect a huge drop off in temperatures tonight. And also the wind shifting to the west, southwest should help us out a little bit. And that's certainly going to help us tomorrow. Southwest wind, even with clouds, will blowtorch us back up into the low 60s. If we get any breaks in that cloud cover tomorrow, look out. Temperatures in the mid to upper 60s certainly possible, because we have a warm front pushing through the area. That warm front's going to push up to the northeast, shift those winds to the southwest. That's also going to moisten things up. And yeah, eventually we're going to see some rain, and boy, do we need it. We are still in extreme to severe drought. So every drop of rain we get coming up on Thursday, we'll take it. Not everyone's going to get super lucky. This looks to be kind of a hit or miss stuff. In fact, I'll show you the future cast here in right now, but in a second I'll show you the actual totals we could see. So Wednesday night, the rain starts. You see a little pink in the mountains. I wouldn't be surprised to see a little sleet mix in initially, but eventually this turns to all rain for everybody by Thursday morning. Could be a wet morning commute on Thursday. That rain pushes out by the middle of the day. Should be dry by Thursday evening with just a few showers south. Friday's trending drier, so look for some sunshine to return. Now, talked about the rain chances, okay? Here's the amounts. Not everyone's going to get a good soaking, but anybody who gets close to an inch of rain, that will help tremendously with our drought conditions. Now, Thursday, typically when we get our drought monitor update, obviously the data runs Tuesday to Tuesday, so none of this will count in that. Don't expect it to be much of an improvement. In fact, it might get a little worse. Now, talked about that shift in the wind. Southwest winds, warmer air. So everybody likes warmer air. That's great. Bad news, blows a lot of tree pollen in from Georgia, Florida, Alabama, South Carolina. Blows some of those pollens up here, as well as our local tree pollen, which is starting to come out. And you're seeing a lot of budding on the trees. Cedar, elm, all their cedar's the worst. I mean, that is the high allergen pollen. There's a reason we call it cedar fever. When you see a ton of that, you start to feel it pretty quickly. And yes, this weekend, meteorologically, climatologically, it is the beginning of spring officially. Starting March 1st, all the data counts as spring, and that's officially the end of winter. Now, there's astronomical seasons, right? The equinox, the solstices, those are separate. That has to do with the sun angle, has nothing to do with the weather. For weather purposes, March 1st is the beginning of spring, and so all that data counts. And here's your averages: 60 on March 1st. By the end of spring, which is the end of May, the average high is 83. So you see, that's a huge jump. I mean, 23-degree jump in temperatures from the beginning to end. It's one of the most extreme seasons of the year for us. In fact, March is the most extreme month of the year. We could have spring and sometimes winter in the same week, and that might be the case here in the next 7 days. We also can still get snow, and we can get severe weather. In fact, look at the next 7 days. There's your taste of spring. Temperatures jump into the 70s, but then by Monday, you're right back into the 50s. So a real good taste of what you expect in March. March also is our windiest month of the year, so get used to that wind. It is very, very gusty. Also, spring fire season, so got to keep an eye on that potential. So the weekend, never too early to look. I mean, it's Tuesday. We'll start looking ahead to the weekend. 67 on Saturday, but Sunday, I think everyone has their eyes on that day. 76 degrees on March 1st. We have warm air last week, but it was during the week. This week, it's on the weekend, so people are going to enjoy this a lot more. Certainly a little taste of spring, but don't get used to it. You know, we're not quite there all the way yet, because your Jerry Hunt Supercenter 7-day forecast shows pretty significant cool down for Monday and Tuesday, back into the lower 50s. The rain chances this week really going to be confined to Thursday. I have a small chance Friday, but kind of trending that down just a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised to see those chances subside even more as we go through the next couple of days. We'll go 10 days into the future and let you see what it looks like long range here. Those low 50s early next week, and then we're back into the 60s as soon as Wednesday, Thursday, into Friday, which is a little closer to our normal high for this time of year. Hopefully, we get some more rain on Tuesday. I'm not super optimistic about that. As I mentioned, we'll get the drought monitor update coming up on Thursday. I know a lot of folks have already commented, hey, my yard is wet or the ground's wet. We're going to drought, folks. It doesn't matter if there's moisture at the surface. The ground is super dry. The lakes, the streams, bone dry. I mean, I looked at Lake Norman this past weekend. some of the coves have just completely dried up. So we desperately need the rain. It's been a long time since we've seen severe and extreme drought like we've seen here across the Carolinas. So hopefully we'll see a lot more rain. As far as temperatures, though, going forward, we can look even longer range. The 6 to 10 day outlook shows the warmth beginning to kind of push back west with a little cooler air in the northeast. We'll go 8 to 14 days into the future, and we can show you it looks like a lot of the country is going to be warming up. So right now, if you're wondering what March, at least early March, is going to look like, I think we're going to stay on the warm side of average, which, as I mentioned, is in the low 60s. So hopefully we will see some rain with that warm air to help out with the drought, because now that we're in spring on March 1st, the growing season is going to get going. You're going to be mowing your grass. You're going to start noticing the drought conditions. Those could really get bad here as we get into March and April. So stick around. We'll be right back. We're going to talk more about the Northeast blizzard, the historic blizzard, and Tim Buckley will be joining me coming up in 2 minutes. All right, welcome back, everybody. Tim Buckley joins me. You see him on screen left. In the middle of your screen, we have a special guest from Philadelphia tonight. From the Weather Channel, Stephanie Abrams joins us. And obviously, the talk of the country, and really not only the Northeast, has been this crazy blizzard in the Northeast. And Stephanie Abrams is in Philadelphia right now. Stephanie, we talked a lot about this yesterday. You've been there. You've been doing great work. Thank you so much for taking 5 minutes out of your long day to spend it with us. What's it been like there in Philadelphia to go through this like epic storm on the East Coast?
Yeah. So we were in Atlantic City for the storm. And I'll tell you guys what, it started snowing in Atlantic City. We got to Philadelphia last night to kind of check out how Philly was holding up. And by the way, they're doing great. The roads have been dry and everything all day. But we were in Atlantic City, and I want to tell you, as a meteorologist, I was a little panicked during the storm because it started snowing around a little after 1. And I was doing live shots again starting at 8. And when I came out at 8, you guys, it was raining. Like, it was rain. There was a little snow mixed in. There was no snow accumulating on the ground. And I was like, oh my goodness, this thing needs to like bomb. And it had to work for its own cold air, right? So that cold air wasn't in place, and the storm had to actually work for it. And I was like, come on, baby, because we're running out of time. There's a lot of rain.
Yeah, and it's funny, as meteorologists, a lot of us, we're looking at this storm, and there wasn't a ton of cold air to begin with, as you mentioned, but it had to bomb out and produce that cold air, kind of bring it down. The GFS won the day, which we talked a little bit about yesterday. Talk about being at Atlantic Beach. What was it like out there? Was there storm surge? Did it feel like a hurricane initially before it changed to this blizzard?
So it did. did. I'll say once it started kicking up around like that 9 o'clock hour, that's when it started getting really, really bad. It started sticking heavily. You know when you're standing in a hurricane and it feels like someone's throwing sand at your face because the rain is hitting your face so hard? That's what it started feeling like with this storm when it really started coming down. And they were plowing the boardwalk, and it was like they would plow it, and then seconds later it would pop back up. And there was a lot of snow. We ended up with a little over 16 inches there in Atlantic City. And I know that's nothing relative to the 20 and 30 inches that we saw in 5 different states, but 16 inches, 16 plus, was plenty. I'll tell you that much, with the wind and everything else that came along with it.
Hey, Stephanie, it looks great behind you right now. I know a lot of the talking points with the storm today was, gosh, the kids are back in school in New York City. It looks like the roads are doing well there. What's the scene in the Philly area today, kind of as they've had a long time to clean up already?
Listen, I'll tell you, last night we drove, I don't know, around 7 or 8 o'clock-ish from Atlantic City to Philly, and the roads from there to here, fine. When we pulled into town, totally fine. They are dry. I can see salt on the sidewalk where I am here. Now, I was in the Oval, which is kind of in the center on Benjamin Franklin Parkway, right by where the Rocky Steps are. There's a massive, and you see these everywhere in parking lots, these huge mounds of snow. So they cleaned it up and made mounds of snow because they got a little over 9 inches with that storm at the end of January. And that was that pile. And so driving along from Atlantic City to here, you would see shopping plazas with mounds of snow from the last storm and then obviously from this one too. But the streets are fine.
Hey, Stephanie, one last question for you. You know, a lot of folks watch the Weather Channel. They see you guys covering these huge events. Kind of peel back the curtain. What is it like for an on-camera meteorologist to be on scene, and what are your hours like when you're covering a huge event like this for the Weather Channel?
Well, I did just say good morning to your producer, so that gives you an idea of where we're at this hour. But they are tough. Yesterday for the storm, we worked like 6 to 10 in the morning, then had a break and came back and worked 8 to midnight. Then the next day we worked from like 10 to 2, then drove here. It's kind of all over the place. But we love it, as you guys do,
Yeah.
and so you put on your rally cap, and I mean, you're in the middle of a blizzard, and we're meteorologists. It's like, it doesn't matter how tired you are, you just go and hope that the words come out properly.
Yeah, there's Red Bull, and then for meteorologists, there's snow. It's like, it just gets you going, right?
I got to say, I love the gloves. Is there a story behind those? Have they taken you through blizzards?
They have taken me through blizzards. In fact, we covered the Olympics in Sochi. Geesh, when was that? 2015? It was a while ago. And we had a correspondent who used to do downhill in the Olympics, and she was wearing gloves like these. And I was like, oh my gosh, those are amazing. Long story short, I tried them on, like, they're beautiful. And so she gifted me a pair forever ago. And I have to tell you, they're the warmest, most delicious gloves you've ever felt in your life. And what I do is I put on gloves, and then I put the mittens on, because as you know, mittens are warmer than gloves. So I can double layer up with those. I don't have, it's balmy out here, guys. There's no wind, it's 31. I'm like ready to put the bathing suit on. This is nothing.
I feel like those gloves would work in a winter storm and also taking a pizza out of the oven. They seem like they would be perfect for both.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
exactly
Stephanie,
why I have them. You know me too well.
Thank you so much for taking 5 minutes out of your day with us. We appreciate all the coverage. Get some sleep. Hopefully you have a couple days to recoup. Yeah, and get back to Atlanta and recover a little bit. We're going to talk a little bit more about this, but thanks again, Stephanie from Philadelphia.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Yeah, Tim, I think that was a great.
Guys, have a good one.
Yep. Tim, I think that was a great question about the roads. I think that was like a big talker down this way, was looking at the roads and that the schools were all back in session. It really is amazing how quickly they recovered from the storm. But I think it also shows a lot of people in the Carolinas why it is easier to deal with snow up there, because you see like the trash trucks, all these. I mean, they use every city resource to get those streets cleaned, and they do it so quickly that it's just something that doesn't happen down here very often.
Yeah, it is. And it's hard to get a sense of all of the roads. Obviously, we're seeing that the main ones are really good. And, you know, we're hearing from Philly right now. They were kind of the first ones to finish up with the snow, but New York seems pretty good as well. I do wonder what does it really look like on those more neighborhood streets, kind of on the side spots. I saw a couple pictures from the city today, you know, in Manhattan or something. When those plows just go right down there, boy, you've got a chore. If you didn't move your car before the storm, I mean, shoveling out a car on a city street, I can't imagine after like 2 feet of snow. That's the worst. And if you do it once, you might have to do it again until they're done. That is just not fun. Up north, you got to do this at the end of your driveway a lot of times too.
Yes.
You might get your driveway clear, but then the snow plow comes and you've got to shovel that snow bank as well.
Yeah, for sure. I remember doing that. And that snow they're plowing from the road is that wet, crusty, super heavy stuff. It is not easy to shovel. It's a pain. Yeah, the other thing, you make a good point. In these big urban corridors, one of the issues they have is, where do you put the snow? Oftentimes they have to come in and truck it out and dump it in the river, or they have these big melting machines now. I don't know if you've seen these, but they'll actually take it in like this hot water thing, will melt it and let the water go down the drain, because in an urban setting, you just got the sidewalks and the road, and there's really nowhere to put the snow. So oftentimes they'll come in the middle of the night and start bulldozing and using bobcats and dump trucking it out, because I've seen that happen before. It is really amazing when they do that during the overnight period.
Those big industrial melters are something. And, it's a simple concept, but just to kind of see that put into action is really smart, because that's the best way to get rid of snow. Number one is just to melt it away. Otherwise, you got to put it somewhere, and it takes up a lot of space in an urban jungle like Manhattan or Brooklyn or something like that. I do think, though, I'm seeing some of those neighborhoods in Rhode Island. This storm was such a different animal for them. Yeah. I think another part of it, too, it stopped during the daytime in New Jersey, in New York. It kept going through the night in coastal New England, and that kind of, it didn't allow them to start that melting process really all that much during the day. And you get 3 feet of snow, how much melting can you do? And so they're buried. They're just buried up there.
Yeah, you have the totals up on your system there. I mean, it's just amazing. These totals out of like Rhode Island and the middle and end of Long Island, as well as out towards Massachusetts. I mean, 30 to 38 inches of snow. That's just like, I had someone on my Facebook page. It was a really good comment. It's like, I put the top 10 and it was between 38 and 31, and they're like, what is the difference between 31 and 38? It's all a ton. I said, yeah, it kind of is, but I think there's always bragging rights for this. But that was a Providence record. I don't think the state record was met. It was 38, but it was pretty close. I'm kind of curious if they'll verify. I saw that 141-inch total, Tim, and I saw it on social media, but I didn't see the Weather Service verify that, so I'm wondering if they're questioning that total.
I have my questions about not really knowing whether to put it in or not, because I was kind of waiting for them to rubber stamp it. I did see the guy that reported it. He's right across the border in Massachusetts, so that would be a Massachusetts number. But he's a Skywarn spotter, so it seems like he knows what he's doing. But I think some of the questions here might be, there's so much blowing and drifting around there that they might call him up and say, hey, did you do this? Did you do that? But you might know more about this process. When it comes to numbers that are this important to the state records, they really want to make sure they can quality control them as best they can.
Yeah, especially if it's going to be a state record. You're right. They're probably going to hold off and wait until they get the state climate office involved. They might come out to the site. Yeah. The other thing is, it's not uncommon to get one number like that, but you hope to see numbers close by that are relatively close, that kind of, the fact that was such a big leap from some of the other reporting locations nearby might have been something. But I good luck measuring that stuff with those drifts. I saw some of the images today from the eastern part of Massachusetts. It was like cars were just buried, and it was drifts that were like 6-7 feet tall. I don't even know how you measure that. And it was a wet, heavy snow, so you probably got to wait to melt it down and then try to do that whole liquid to snowfall ratio. I think it's going to be interesting to see. But you're right, when it becomes a state record, there's definitely a lot more quality control that goes into that process.
For sure. And, I think it's going to be interesting going forward. Obviously, we're spending a lot of time talking just about the most interesting weather in the country here, which is not local right now, and that's fine. But they are going to get more snow tonight and tomorrow morning. So I have a buddy up there. He's planning a big event for his corporation that he works for, and it's tomorrow morning in the New York area. And he was asking me advice on how to plan it, and I was telling him, he's like, "Well, it'll really depend on how they dig out mostly." But he's in Tarrytown, which is just north of the city. This is going to be an extra 1 to 2 inches. Basically right there in commute time. So from about 5 a.m. tomorrow through about 11 a.m., they could get another inch or two. And for us, that's not really for us, that's a big deal. For them, Hopefully not, but it's just going to be a little extra something. And then there's another one later this week.
Yeah.
And there's another one early next week. So this is just kind of one of those parade of storms, right, Brad?
Yeah, it is a very interesting pattern for the Northeast. All this talk of snow in the Northeast, had a lot of my followers and viewers questioning, what are some of the big storms for our area? I found this great map today, and I don't know if, Jeb, you can bring my laptop up. So this is the climate Environmental Climate Center from NOAA puts out this great map, and it shows the highest totals for each county in North Carolina. And it is pretty amazing to see. And just as we try to pull it up, I'll kind of show you. We have for some reason, we have our roof camera showing up there and not my laptop. It's really bizarre. But for Mecklenburg County, you can go 1, 2, and 3 day totals. The extreme snowfall event for Mecklenburg County is 17.1. And up towards your way, you got a lot of 20 inchers around the Triad area. And then the biggest total, obviously, there it is. We can put it up there. I'll try to zoom in, too, to kind of show you guys a couple of things. So you can see there's Mecklenburg County, 17.1. Up towards you, Alamance is 18. You can see areas. Whoops, I'm going to try to click on here real quick. Guilford County there in Greensboro, 20 inches. That's from 1927, Tim. Are you familiar?
1927.
Yeah, you remember that storm?
That's our 1 day record, Brad. So that'll happen on a single day in March of 27. Yeah.
And the one that sticks out here is over here in Mitchell County, which is the 50 incher. Everyone remembers that one. That's the superstorm of 1993. But it is crazy to think, even in North Carolina, every county has had a foot or more. Except for, it looks like 2 or 3 counties in the northeastern part of the state, which is kind of weird because you think a nor'easter would have got them at some point. But there's some big totals on here. And for our South Carolina viewers, this is really odd, Tim. So you see this, and you would expect the upstate would be, but there's a county down here in the low country. I believe this is, let me hover over this. I'll kind of figure out what county. Clarendon County, in 1973, their record snowfall is 24 inches of snow. I'm guessing this was some kind of weird band with a coastal low or something. But even in South Carolina, those are impressive numbers. But it kind of puts it into perspective. They had 38 inches in Providence, and that would blow by almost every county except for maybe a handful in the mountains for a winter storm here in the Carolinas.
Oh yeah, it's so true. So to see that amount of snowfall, and you could kind of go back and say, how many of the last winters would you have to add up to kind of get to that 36-inch number? But you're right, Brad. For us, it basically beats almost every county in the state for historic snowfall. But I think actually, judging by our climate and our latitude and the part of the country, these numbers might actually be bigger than a lot of people would think. And we talked about this when we got that huge statewide storm a couple of weeks ago. The coast is actually, they're a stranger to snowfall in a sense because it's rare and not that common. But when they get it, they really can get it because of the available energy provided by the Atlantic Ocean. And that's the same reason that the Northeast can get those big blockbuster totals usually closer to the coast, more so than the interior Northeast where the snow happens more often, but it's usually not quite as impressive in the depth unless you're close to the Great Lakes.
Yeah, we have the moisture and we get the coastal lows. It's just we sometimes don't have the cold air. But as you mentioned, if you get the cold air and one of these coastal lows down this way, you're going to get clobbered with some big time snows. It does feel like the coastal plain area. It's either you're going to have no snow in a winter or you're going to get one of these big ones. There's not a lot of in betweens. It's either a big storm or no storm at all because they don't get the little storms. It's usually a coastal low, and then obviously the mountains. You expect big totals there, but. Some of those are always impressive. I'm kind of curious to look at some of these, how many of these were actually winter storms versus northwest flow events. Because one thing we kind of probably didn't talk enough about, and I feel guilty about this, and we did mention it, but our mountains got some pretty good snow out of this, Tim. I was looking at a couple of the totals. Beach Mountain got like 9.5 inches, and it snowed for like a day and a half. It wasn't just like a quick snow flurry. They had some pretty blustery conditions with wind blowing around. You posted some great pictures from Grandmother Mountain today. I saw that were pretty cool, but there was some legitimate snow up there. And in some areas, it might have been the most snow they saw all winter.
Yeah, you're exactly right. A long duration, I think, helped with this. The fact that it lasted a couple of days, but about a foot. So Henry Burton, he lives up on Grandfather Mountain, or Grandmother, like you said. Every time I say Grandmother Mountain, I have to stop and remember that that is a thing. But it's right next to Grandfather. He said 12 inches there, and that's the most that he's seen since they've had that house. I'm not sure how long they've been there, but 5 years or something. That's pretty significant, right? So this for them was a pretty good snow event, and really good news for the ski slopes, because these warm-ups that we're going to continue to have, they're going to hurt. So it's good to kind of build this up when you can with the colder air.
Yeah, I'm just looking at some of the totals up there. There was a Mount Rogers. Have you ever been up there? Grayson Highlands. That's a beautiful area.
Yeah.
White Top Mountain, 14 inches of snow up there, Tim. They get clobbered up there in these Northwest Flow events. And then I love skiing, so I've been up to Snowshoe, and everybody who's ever been to Snowshoe, they got clobbered. They got like 2 feet of snow up in central parts of West Virginia, which I think, that's Pocahontas County is this like unique spot. It's in the middle of nowhere. The Grand Bank Observatory is there, so you have no cell phone service, but it's perpendicular to Northwest Flow, and they get absolutely clobbered up there. So pretty good snow event for us. So I'm sure this will go down in the record books. We'll probably talk more about it, but that's all the time we have tonight, guys. We'll probably be talking about warm up and rainy weather heading our way tomorrow. Stick around, though. We've got more news coming up on The Plus.